Welcome to the Escape and Empower podcast. Escape from the corporate rat race to empowered franchise ownership. Are you ready to take control of your destiny, follow your dreams, and live life on your own terms? Join our hosts, Dave and Pete, for insights on how to break free from the corporate grind, ditch the 9-to-5, and step into empowered franchise ownership.
Good morning, Pete. How are you today?
Good morning, Dave.
What a great Wednesday it is today. You know, my name is Dave Greenberg, and I am from the Empowered Franchisee, and I'm thankful to be part of the podcast with my dear friend, Pete.
Well, Dave, again, I'm with Hire Yourself, and both of us help people look at exploring franchise business opportunities or just become better business people. And I'm really excited about today's podcast. I'm excited about our podcast because this is something that's going to really impact our lives. I got tipped off on this a year ago. I read an article at the Wall Street Journal, and it talks about the disappearing white-collar job. It was like crazy, the impact AI is going to have on businesses. So I thought today what we talk about is this impact of AI, and a lot of people think, well, that's a very good thing. We are in a human-to-human world, so business is always going to be human-to-human. But AI is going to be the difference between being a very successful business and being an okay business, in my opinion. So let's jump into it. So let's talk a little bit about ways in which AI is going to impact jobs or white-collar jobs. So what would be one example of AI impacting careers or jobs or companies?
Oh, Pete, this is a great subject. And I'm wondering why we have so many IT-driven kind of chief technology offers in our pipeline these days. And it's because of this subject. So, you know, one thing we've always wrestled with in the corporate world was decision-making, right? And how can you streamline decision-making? That's one thing that kind of has come into the surface for me. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of times we have bias, and AI can do the base work of putting together what the potential decision is. And then executives, it saves them time. They can take a look at what the recommended decision is generated from AI, and then they can kind of make a decision from there. I mean, there was an article in the Harvard Business Review that talked about the idea of how AI is transforming decision-making for organizations. So it's real. It's helping organizations make decisions faster, and I think maybe even more precise.
Right. You know, there's always a balance of art and science when you get into these things. It's something I focused on when I was a marketeer. And I think this science of AI is really going to pick up. Ultimately, you know, I think it will lead to better decisions, more efficient decisions, and, you know, increasing the velocity of business is always good. We learned in the car business, turning money is making money, right?
Absolutely, right? So speaking of making money, one of the ways in which you can make money is reducing costs. And so that would be another example where AI can help reduce costs.
I totally agree, Pete. But I have to tell you, when I was in the Ford product marketing world, it was just a wonderful place. But we were always trying to think, how do we drive cost out of the system and how do we reduce weight? But now that I'm in this EV, Pete, it's like an 8,000 pound car, 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And the fit and finish is like incredible. Now it wasn't cheap, but you know, I'm like, man, they didn't really focus on the weight and they didn't really focus on the cost reduction in this car. And it's just incredible quality. But cost reduction, you know, it's not just the visuals. It's not just, you know, looking at the high level stuff. It's the deep data analysis, right? That can get into these decisions and interact with customers. So, you know, these cost reductions are made in the right place. But where else could it help?
I think a little bit about labor, right? So I talked to a guy that he was in the publication industry, and he talked about, you know, we don't need 3 people writing today. We really need one person prompting GDP and literally going and then looking at what's generated and then editing it, right? So the idea is that instead of having 3 people, you only need 1.
Right. That leads me into another point. It's just overall efficiency. I use AI in my business every day, but it's in communications and some other elements of how I approach business. But how about efficiency? You have any thoughts on how it can make you just more efficient in your day-to-day or your go-to-market strategies or anything else?
Certainly, when you are even doing like marketing, developing marketing content, right? You can take your ideas, run them through AI, and it can come up with some stuff, and then you can take it. So instead of spending an hour writing, I'm a slow writer. Instead of spending an hour writing, I can literally do the same thing in 15 minutes, leveraging technology in today's world.
Right. AI doesn't give a hoot about my dyslexia. It actually helps me overcome it. But there was a pretty interesting article that made me think of this, and it's in a Forbes magazine. It's titled The Impact of AI on Business Efficiency. A lot of neat insights. And the challenging part is, will it ever lead to that workforce downsizing? And what will it do to evolve the roles in business today? And what that efficiency means? Could it mean just a better work-life balance? Could it mean reductions of costs?
I think one of the other things that AI is going to do is data-driven insights. You have so much access to data very quickly, and it can take that. And sometimes it's not biased. We kind of talked about this earlier, about this idea of getting a lot of data to you fast, analyzing the data, and then putting people in a position to make a decision. And it's just, you need less people in strategic roles, right? Because it is doing a lot of the heavy lifting when we talk about data-driven insights.
What do you think about talent management? We're talking about efficiencies, cost reductions, and how you think about AI can help you in decision-making. What do you think it's going to do to talent management?
Well, I think it can take an objective way to look at just literally performance, right? So you could run reports on your employees using AI with all the data, and it can help you come to things. Sometimes we get a little biased. We know that person, they've been working with for us a while, but when you're dealing with straight data or performance and you're looking at it from a standpoint of just the data, it's a good starting point for you to evaluate the talent in terms of, do you need to get rid of that person? Do you need to, for lack of better terms, help get that person to the next level? But the idea is, I think it's going to have a huge impact on it.
Or just shifting resources around, right? If you have a particular part of the organizations that is stretched thin and the skill sets are transferable, can you actually put resources where human capital is really required? And you can put AI on things where human capital can be replaced by AI. It's really interesting discussion. Unfortunately, and as entrepreneurs, I don't think about this every day. My business is a little simpler, but it's coming to my business. I use it in a big way in my business. But it's interesting is we think about my just experience with Rivian is just unbelievable. I pick up the phone and a human answer, but how can AI really get to the customer interaction piece? Maybe they can fix the cable industry, because we're all frustrated with our cable providers. I don't know.
That's probably another podcast recording.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that customer interactions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are in a human-to-human world, but we're finding more and more where AI is creating chatbots, right? Where they are literally responding to stuff. And then at some point when I do need to talk to a human, I can. But a lot of the front end now is automated with these chatbots, and they're fast. In today's world, fast is important. Fast responses, and they provide information. So they're very good. At some point in time, you have to, I think, get to a human, but it's a lot harder in today's world. But AI is certainly driving that.
I think about project management or product development, and I understand agile methodology in the development world, but it has to have far-reaching impacts on project management. Could you just think of the days of the Gantt chart, right? The Gantt chart would really lead you in your milestones, and you'd have checkpoints and all this.
Yep.
I'm assuming that all becomes automated and
it can monitor the progress and allocate resources and even predict outcomes, right? Which I think makes it faster and probably more accurate and frees people up to be doing other things as doing those things for you.
We used to have people headcount dedicated to tracking stuff.
Yeah.
And keeping things on task and keeping people on task. So maybe it's those project management types that maybe they're not replaced, but maybe they get to hover up and think big and understand where the gaps are, as opposed to just tracking tasks.
Well, and they probably need less people, right? because you get all that AI. And I think about, like, I ran all the incentives for Ford and Lincoln Mercury at one point in time. And, the idea with those incentives is we had to look at kind of what was going on in the marketplace. And it took a lot of work to do that. And AI now, it can do fast, for lack of better terms, market analysis, identify trends. It can predict consumer behavior. It's like crazy. If I would have had that tool back in the day, that would have saved us so much time, and probably would have needed less people.
And well, you work like 20-hour days. I don't know how Shannon put up with you. Well, maybe she put up with you by working 20-hour days. It sucked being away from the family as a corporate guy, and you busted your chops in that job for I don't know how many years. You had the longest tenure in that job than anyone, I think, because you were so damn good at it. They just didn't want you to go. But man, that was incredible what you did there. Do you think that, we talked about the pace and the velocity of business. So, I keep on thinking the velocity of business. But what about innovation? It has to do something on innovation. I don't know I'm sure Elon Musk is figuring this out for all of us, but what do you think about innovation?
Oh, I think it absolutely fosters innovation, right? I mean, it can look ahead, it can generate new ideas, new solutions more rapidly. Sometimes we get kind of caught up and we are based on what we've experienced. And I think AI can kind of look towards the future. I mean, there's a great article by PwC, AI and the future of innovation. And I think it's going to really drive more innovation. I mean, we're already in a world now where we're learning faster. I mean, the amount of information duplicates so much faster than it has ever. And I think we're just going to continue to see that pace.
I think there's a couple things. We keep on leaning towards people, but I have to think about, and we're going to have this conversation in another podcast about capital efficiency and investment efficiency, but it has to take out either both operating and capital investments from the money side, don't you think?
Oh, I think so. And I think you can now, with AI, you can take generalists and make them specialists, and you don't need as many employees if you get specialists that just do that thing. So AI kind of backs it, and it makes it easier to have those specialists that, hey, this is all I do, and I leverage AI to do whatever I'm doing in that specific position. So it's going to be pretty amazing to see AI and the impact it is going to have on jobs. But in my opinion, it is going to impact productivity. It's going to reduce costs. It is going to reduce the number of people that we need. And that is concerning. Now, again, as I was just in a business mastery class with Darren Hardy, he talked about that we do leverage AI, but we're still a human-to-human business, right? Whatever it is, it's one human talking to another human. And that can never be replaced with AI, but everything behind that sure can.
I love that. I love the human-to-human approach. It's what I use in my outreach and my connections with people, because everyone can see what is a AI-driven conversation. They just seem so kind of rote. No, you can definitely sniff out what's human and what's not. At least I can. And I'm happy to see that. If I was still in the corporate world, which I'd probably be dead if I was, and I'm glad I'm not. The one thing I would want AI to do for me is my expense reports.
Oh, yeah.
God, did I hate those things.
Oh, don't get me going on that stuff.
Yeah.
But we both were very fortunate to get a great education in the corporate world, and we're both proud to have, basically escaped, and we're empowered business owners. And that's what we do, is we help people get ahead of this. So if you are kind of thinking, hey, AI might impact my job, especially if I'm in my 50s, now is the time to start putting together plan B. And that may be your own consulting business, that might be buying an existing business, that might be investing in a franchise, but you got to start preparing now to create career and income security. Put yourself in a position where you don't get flat-footed, where a company comes in and says, you're 54 years old and we've decided to reorganize, or we're going a different direction. And then you find yourself flat-footed. And so take all this information, understand that AI is going to impact our world as we know it today, and get ahead of it. Doesn't make AI bad, just we need to get ahead of it to understand what we can do to leverage it, but also protect ourselves so it doesn't hurt us.
I love that, Pete. Don't let anyone else move your cheese. Remember that book?
Yeah.
But just don't let anyone else move your cheese. And if you know someone's going to move your cheese, think about your transition and how you're going to take the path to leverage something for yourself. We were in the corporate space, and Loyalty is a wonderful thing. We had a company that did great things for us, but we were just blindly loyal. And there's bandwidth for you as an executive with your skill sets to plan parallel paths. And the only thing that I would remember, and this is kind of me, I'm always going to beat this drum because it happened to me. Ageism is real. So come talk to us. Think about a transition plan. Think about that alternate path, what it may look like for yourself so you can control your own destiny. And, understand ageism is real. That's the little tip for the day. And we can talk about it in many ways if you call myself or Pete to explore the opportunity of becoming a business owner, working for yourself, keeping 100% of the profits, being the captain of your own calendar as a business owner in franchising.
All right. Well, great conversation today, Dave. I look forward to our next one.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks for tuning in to the Escape and Empower podcast. We hope today's discussion has inspired you to consider franchise ownership as a path to living life on your own terms. Start your journey towards financial freedom and flexibility. Connect with Dave at empoweredfranchisee.com or Pete at hireyourself.com. Until next time.